Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult, video number 300. The big 300, and I've got like 10 more lined up actually. I was inspired the last 48 hours. Halloween is approaching, so my occult powers grow. The truth about hell. So we're going to talk a little bit about hell, Hades, all this shit, because it's something that needs to be discussed. And you know, for every 100 videos, that extra 100th video, you want to be on a cool topic. So I figured, well, hell is always cool. Well, I mean, it's hot, but, you know, well, no, not in every tradition, though. Hell in the Norse tradition, a frozen wasteland filled with demons and things like that, ice giants and shit. Anyway, here's my thoughts on hell. The first thought is that the hell that's believed in the general modern sense by the average Christian, does not exist. Hate to burst your bubble, but, you know, George Soros will probably not be in a pot of boiling excrement for eternity. We can know this because when we're looking at the actual biblical scriptures, the canonical ones, we see a situation, and there is some extra canonical stuff that even kind of nullifies the eternal punishment side of Revelation. There were other texts that were considered to replace it that did almost happen. And you're like, well, this seems rather dreary for a significant proportion of the population of the world. Maybe we should leave this book out because it's not in lockstep with the whole salvation and grace thing. If you look at Judaism, though, which forms the backbone of what became Christianity, you don't have the concept of an eternal suffering in this sense. That comes later, really. It seems to come more from pagan tradition. The idea of fires and consumption and sacrifice and all these other things actually get their way into Judaism and also inform forms of idolatry as well. A lot of them come from the Hittites, time of the Babylonian captivity, etc. Before that, basically what you get is the concept that hell, in the literal sense, that actual term, is the grave. It's just being dead. It's not really, it's more like a place of sleep than anything. It's not even entirely like tangible. It's just a state of being. You also get, though, and this is a mistranslation, New Testament style, you get the idea of Gehenna. Now, Gehenna, in the literal sense, was a physical location. It actually existed. It was basically a big pit outside of Old Jerusalem in which trash was thrown, and it was perpetually burning and stinking and was a rather unpleasant place. How it was used by Jesus in the Bible specifically is as a metaphor. The idea is basically like the souls of the unrighteous are basically, they're trash. They're meant to be burned up into nothing. But you don't get a semblance of they're going to burn for the rest of eternity in the very physical, corporeal sense, because of course they're not corporeal anymore, they're a spirit. The metaphor is basically that separation from the Godhead or godliness is the suffering. They are burned up into nothing. And you can get into Kabbalistic sort of lore as well, the idea that the force of God, the light of this deity, can literally reduce the soul to nothing and completely dissolve it into absolute nothingness. And then, so that's one tradition, and that's what the majority of you out there watching this are either secular or you're Judeo-Christians of some brand or another. And then it would be funny if someone was like a really religious Islamist watching the videos or something. I don't think that's likely. Then you have hell, H-E-L, in the Norse sense. Again, a physical location. So the place where the sun goes to die. Again, it's partially symbolic. It's partially scientific and geographic, just like with Gehenna. It was a physical location. Hell is a physical location. Hell, H-E-L-L, is a metaphor, predominantly based off of that. It's also a psychic thought form if you believe in such things. That is, if you believe that mass consciousness is capable of spawning anything, this would be one limitation of the theosophical groups and associated movements. They'll admit to the creation of things on other realms from human thought or other intelligent thought. They can be more or less tangible, more or less empowered. But they don't admit to the capability of the collective action of like a Christian group who believe in that place to affect that other realm, that astral realm. So if it's possible for an individual, this would be the one aside, if it's possible for an individual, through their thoughts, to spawn a shade or some other entity, quasi-entities and not technically given intelligence, on the Arupa plane or something. If it's possible for one person to do that through force of thought, What if it's 1 billion people? This is not widely apparently discussed in any literature that I myself have encountered. I would think that it could create such a realm that would become self-entrapping for the people that believe in it and have guilt. That is, to be an Abraham is to believe in the capability of the spirit to become reincorporated into a body capable of feeling pain, and that could be eternal, and then to thought form it into existence. From an occult perspective, that would be very dangerous unless you were actually quite religious and living an upstanding life. If you're doing that, then no problem. Instead, you're creating heaven and going there. You are creating, though, in essence, through your own potential guilty feelings, your own hell. This would be something that would be considered dangerous. By the way, this is more on the abstract and philosophical side, of course. I do not believe in the Christian hell. I also don't believe that there's a Norse Valhalla where you die with your sword in your hand and you get to go to Odin's Great Hall and battle every day and drink and fuck all night for the rest of eternity. That sounds better than the Christian conception because, all you have to do is be reasonably virtuous and brave, and then you can you can have all the honey mead that you want, and you can slay demons and wolves and shit. It does sound kind of fun. It's like a never-ending video game. My own belief is reincarnation, so I don't believe in any of these particular systems. I don't sit there at night and say, well, I picked my nose today. Am I going to hell? Oh shit, I'm going to suffer forever for the sin of nose picking. It doesn't happen. I do not believe in it, but mainly that's because if you look at the historical context of the development of the idea of hell, it's not even original. It comes from pagan cultures, actually. The idea of demons. Most of the demons within Christendom early on that are talked about, they're incorporated from people. They're incorporated from Beelzebub, essentially, Baal and Bel, and all of these terms. By the way, there are similar terms in Irish, Mesoamerican, and a lot of other systems that all seem to have appeared at once, but many, many thousands of years prior. And these groups, apparently in the modern sense, when there was language, had no contact with each other. It's an historical anomaly, actually. What I would say is that the truth about hell is that it's not there. And this would be a proper Christian interpretation of the concept, too. Now, if you're talking about the suffering of the damned after Revelation, yes. If you take the book of Revelation quite literally and you don't, maybe I would say understand that much of it is metaphor, then yes, you would believe in, well, not really a hell, but in this new world you have a lake of fire there that people are tossed into. It must be a large lake. It's probably at least the size of the Black Sea. But then again, the New Jerusalem spoken of is a golden cube that's the size of Brazil. So we're not necessarily dealing with things that comport to the current understanding of physical laws and reality. But when you're being metaphoric and metaphysical, does it really matter? By the way, all these things are possibilities. Like I said, technically speaking, if you believe in the occult, you believe that if people did believe genuinely in hell, they could create their own hell. It would be a prison of their own creation that they would lock themselves in almost willfully. At some point that thought form dissipates. It's not technically eternal, but it would still be there. They would still suffer greatly because they would be separated from what they conceived of as the Godhead, this egregore that they've created in their minds. That's about all. Peace out.